Hello, Consciously Parenting community. I'm Jen Kobrick. I'm a holistic family consultant with the Consciously Parenting Project, and welcome to the Conscious Coffee Break. Today we are talking about the difference between approval and acceptance. This is something that's come up recently in some conversations we've been having, and I think it's maybe a helpful thing for a lot of people to dive into because the reason it came up and the reason it comes up frequently with parents is that as we start making changes to how we do things as parents, we sometimes don't get approval. We might not get approval from our own parents. We might not get approval from our in-laws. We might not get approval from friends, pediatricians, society at large, because we're doing things differently. And there's a whole host of reasons, and maybe that's another episode about why people who love us and care about us and want to support us might not approve of some of these changes we are making, even when they feel like really good changes to us. But they don't sometimes. Sometimes we get a whole lot of judgment. And of course, we all would really like to have the people that are important to us be on board with whatever it is that we're doing in our lives, because that feels really good when they are. And so, of course, it can feel like a whole nother layer, making it challenging to make some of these changes when there's this lack of approval. And so something that I hear a lot of times from people is something along the lines of, I don't need you and I don't need your approval. And while it's true that we don't need the approval of anyone in particular in order to do what we feel is best for ourselves and our families, something that comes up for people sometimes when they say that is like, okay, I've said I don't need your approval, and yet I keep having a hard time doing things the way I intend to because there's this little voice in the back of my head saying, if I do that, you won't approve. And so there's this deep layer that I can't seem to get rid of that's still looking for that approval. And so the way we framed this in a recent conversation was that we don't need approval necessarily, but we definitely need acceptance. Acceptance is part of being in community. Acceptance is part of feeling like we're part of the group. If we are not accepted and we are not welcomed into community, then that feels very unsafe because we're communal animals. We're communal beings. There was a time when acceptance by the people around us was literally part of our safety and our survival. If we were part of a tribe that was only, a handful of people, and those are the people that we have available to us to work together with to be safe, to raise our children, and those people didn't accept us, that would have really been dangerous, right? And so that is programmed in us. Even though now we have access to so many more people, we can go find a different village, as it were, if the village we're in is not accepting us. But it still is encoded in who we are as humans, that need for acceptance and being a part of the community. And that's not a bad thing. That leads to a lot of richness in our relationships and that feeling of community, that when we have that feeling of community is really powerful and beautiful and sustains us. So why is it then that we get caught up in looking for approval when what we really need is acceptance? And to make this really simple, and again, we can maybe do another episode about where all of everyone's motivations might come from for these dynamics. But the basic reason that they get mixed up is because for many of us, we have experienced conditional acceptance, which means that we're only accepted when someone approves of us. So the approval has been a condition for the acceptance. And if that has been our experience, then it feels really hard to not seek the approval, because it feels like our basic human need for acceptance will also not be met. So sometimes, as adults, with some clear communication and boundaries, that's enough to disentangle the two. Sometimes with some of these people who might not be giving their approval, saying something like, "This feels really good for my family, and I hope that you'll support me, but I'm not going to wait for your approval to choose what's right for me and my family." Saying something like that out loud or internally and placing corresponding boundaries may be enough for some people. Some people truly want to support you and want to accept you and want to be a part of your and your children's lives, and just need a little bit of help to understand that you're not doing some kind of crazy thing. You're truly doing what you believe is best for you and your family. And once they see that or understand that that is the motivation, then the need for approval might go away, or the approval might be given more freely. Some people will continue to believe that only their way is the acceptable way, and that approval will not be coming. And in those cases, it can be helpful sometimes to recognize that this desire for approval, that the motivation for it is the need for acceptance. Because when we can see that, and we can recognize that true unconditional acceptance is not going to come from a certain source, then we can begin to process that layer. Instead of just, putting up this barrier of, "I don't need your approval," we can make some space for the feelings that go along with the fact that we're not getting the acceptance we need. Because that is a loss that deserves to have some space for the grief that goes with it. And it opens up the possibility of us finding the places and people who do give us acceptance. Acceptance of who we are, who our families are, that we're doing the best that we can at every moment with the tools and information and skills we have. We're doing the best we can at every moment. And that as we try to make changes, we're trying to make things better, easier for ourselves, for our children. And we're not going to get it right all the time. We're going to make lots and lots of mistakes. And true acceptance accepts all of that. Acceptance sees you as a person who's doing their best, as a person who makes mistakes, and as a person who is still worthy of acceptance when they make mistakes. And those spaces do exist. Those villages do exist. And I know they exist because I see it happen over and over and over again with parents in our community, parents in our membership. I see these parents bring hard things, challenges, failures, mistakes, and I see them get acceptance back. And I see how powerful and transformative that is, to not have your acceptance in the community tied up in your performance, not tied up in you doing what someone else wants you to do. And the more that I see people follow their internal guidance and receive acceptance, the more I see them heal from those wounds of conditional acceptance, the more I see them grow in confidence as a parent, and grow in confidence in making the choices that are right for them and their children and their family. And it's really a powerful thing to have that acceptance and community, and have it not be tied to a condition. And I also see quite regularly the wounds needing some space, to be heard and to be felt and to be allowed the wound of, I'm doing what I think is best and I feel like it's going really well and I'm so pleased with everything about our lives except that this person won't approve. And I don't want to keep doing things that I don't like to try to get their approval, and I can't seem to stop wanting their approval. And it's pretty often that comes up too and needs some space to be heard, because we all want the acceptance of the people who are closest to us. So if this has touched on any part of your experience, I hope you'll join us on one of our community healing story circles. And if you need some space for your own experience to be heard, that is a great place to do it. We can also set you up with one-on-one support if that's helpful. We'll be opening our membership again soon, and that is a wonderful place to experience community and acceptance. So if any of that has touched on the needs that you're experiencing, please feel free to leave a comment or send a message, and we will help get you to the resources that you need. Have a lovely week, and I will see you next time.